Part 58. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 571. The light cocoon on his body shattered, Xiaopingyan opened his eyes, there was still a hint of shock in his eyes, and murmured to himself, "This world bead is so strong." At this time, Xiaopingyan was finally able to confirm that those who had integrated Ji Changxiu's boundary bead before had indeed only integrated half of it. Others had not mastered the most critical shooting without shooting secret method of this boundary bead. After fusing this world bead, the upper limit of divine power in Xiaopingyan's secret mandala suddenly increased by 66 points to 8,632 points. As a result, he only needs less than 200 points of divine power to break through to the Seven Suns realm. In addition to the increased divine power, Xiaopingyan's biggest gains from this world bead are four. One is that the world bead provides eye-strengthening techniques, allowing Xiaopingyan's naked eyes to have the same terrifying observation power as Ji Chang's. This ability allows Xiaopingyan to see a mosquito as big as an eagle from 1,000 meters away. This is also the second visual ability that Xiaopingyan has gained since he became a summoner, besides dark vision. The second gain that the Jizu provided to Xiaopingyan was the secret technique of non-shooting. This secret technique of non-shooting allows people to shoot powerful invisible arrows without the need for bows and arrows, easily crushing the best. The archer. The third gain that the World Pearl provided to Xiaopingyan was that after Xiaopingyan integrated the World Pearl, his ability to master bows and arrows had suddenly reached its peak. Because Xiaopingyan had no mystery about the boundary, Ji Chang was the experiences and things he learned in the World Pearl were the same as what Xiaopingyan learned and mastered himself. The fourth gain that the Boundary Pearl gave Xiaopingyan was that he could summon a magic archer. Note that this summoned a magic archer, not an ordinary archer. The combat power of the two was not at the same level at all. The newly added divine power strengthened the ability of Xiaopingyan's clone. Thinking of the secret method of non-shooting that he had newly mastered, Xiaopingyan stood up directly, walked through the space covered by his formation disk, and came directly into the cave outside. It was pitch black in the cave, but to Xiaopingyan's eyes it looked like daylight. Xiaopingyan looked intently at a stalactite hanging upside down like a bamboo shoot more than 200 meters away in front of him. The stalactite was more than 2 meters long and hung upside down from a gap in the cave. There were still water droplets dripping from the stalactite. Fall into the gap in the cave below. As Xiaopingyan watched, the tip of the stalactite suddenly grew larger in Xiaopingyan's eyes. In Xiaopingyan's eyes, the tip as big as a little finger suddenly became as clear as a pillar hugged by a person. The drops dripping from the tip the bottom of the water, in Xiaopingyan's eyes, has become as big as a basketball. The secret method of shooting without shooting does not pay attention to the form or tools. Once mastered, you can shoot without shooting with bare hands, walking, sitting or lying down, and easily kill the enemy 100 meters away. Xiaopingyan raised his right hand, with his index finger and middle finger stretched out together, his thumb raised, and the other two fingers slightly bent. Just like a child pretending to be a pistol when playing games, he aimed his hand at the stalactites and water droplets in the distance. There was a soft bang sound in the mouth. Xiaopingyan had just come out of his mouth. A drop of water that had just fallen from the tip of a stalactite 100 meters away fell into pieces in the air like it was hit by an invisible bullet. It evaporated instantly in the air before it landed on the ground. Xiaopingyan aimed his hand at the tip of the stalactite again and made a bang sound in his mouth. The tip of the stalactite shattered instantly. Then he aimed at a huge granite stone 100 meters away, and with another bang in his mouth, a hole more than 5 feet deep as thick as a thumb was directly penetrated into the rock. This is a shot that does not shoot, killing people invisible, and it is very powerful. Xiaopingyan feels that the power of the invisible bullet shot from his hand is no more powerful than the cannonballs fired from the turrets that he shot before when he shot those demon rats and destroyed the Doomsday Gang. The power is small. This power can easily tear through and penetrate the protection of lightly armored targets. As long as he thought about it, it was as if he was holding a large caliber anti-material sniper rifle in his hand. Haha, if you want to rob a bank in the future, you don't need to carry a gun, you just need to point your finger at someone's head. Xiaopinggan was very satisfied with his new ability. I don't know if this non-shooting technique can evolve in the future and become more powerful. Now that Xiaopinggan is using this technique, he can shoot 3 times with 1 point of divine power. If he can shoot once with 1 point of divine power or once with more points of divine power, the power of this non-shooting shot can continue to increase. Just wait and study it slowly later. After trying out the newly mastered techniques in the cave, Xiaopinggan continued to return to his refuge and began to fuse the remaining 2 world beads. The next thing Xiaopinggan integrated was the world pearl of Shi Kuang's theory of learning. In the blink of an eye, Xiaopinggan was surrounded by a cocoon of light. When Xiaopinggan regained consciousness, his eyes were dark and he couldn't see anything clearly. He only heard a person in front of him saying in a regretful voice, "Shi Kuang, you are so knowledgeable and talented, and I am already 70 years old, but I still feel that I don't know enough and want to learn something, but I am afraid that I will get old and it is too late to learn now. Now that I think about it, I didn't study hard when I was young and wasted too much time. Now I regret it. It's too late." Xiaopinggan knew that it was Duke Ping of Jin who was talking to him. Shi Kuang, known as the music saint in ancient China, was a famous music master and a minister of Jin dynasty during the reign of Duke Jinping. Dazai was good at both music and divination. He was the ancestor of fortune tellers and was also proficient in birds and beasts. In other words, it is said that Shi Kuang can attract phoenixes and birds when he plays the piano. There is also a legend that he is the creator of ancient Tai Chi. It is no exaggeration to say that Shi Kuang is definitely a strange person. But one thing is that Shi Kuang is a blind man and cannot see things. There is a saying that Shi Kuang was born blind. There is also a saying that Shi Kuang destroyed his eyesight by using medicinal needles, because Shi Kuang found that vision would affect his concentration, making him unable to concentrate wholeheartedly. To do one thing, he turned himself blind. This world bead is the first world bead that Xiaopinggan fused for the first time in complete darkness and only through dialogue. "Your Majesty, why don't you light the candles?" Xiaopinggan said directly after hearing Jinping Gong's question. "Are you teasing me by saying this? How can a minister tease the king like this?" Jinping Gong's voice was already a little unhappy. "I'm already blind, how dare you tease your Majesty? But I heard that a person who likes to study when he is young is as bright as the rising sun, like the rising sun in the east. A person likes to study when he is middle-aged, like the sunshine of the noon Sunday, it is just as strong at the right time, and a person likes to study in his later years. Even if the sun sets, it is like holding a candle in his hand to illuminate. Your Majesty, tell me, which one is better than walking with a candle or walking in the dark? People want to live and learn until you are old, and it is never too late to learn." Jinping Gong Bingja praised, "Well said." Golden Summoner. Author, Zy Hu. Chapter 572. Zhang Yudu, take a closer look at the Kaibao temple pagoda you built. Why is it not straight, but slightly tilted to the northwest? The Yudu craftsman is Yu Hao, and the Du material craftsman is the position held by Yu Hao, which is equivalent to the chief engineer and project leader in later generations. Yu Hao is also the role played by Xiaopinggan at this moment. Once the Kaibao temple pagoda is built, the pagoda suddenly became the tallest building in Bianjing city. However, the careful craftsman took a closer look and found that after the Kaibao temple pagoda was built, it tilted slightly to the northwest, so he came to ask for advice. Bianjing is located in a plain with no mountains around it. I inspected the climate of Bianjing in previous years and found that the northwest wind blows frequently in Bianjing all year round. Therefore, high-rise buildings in Bianjing, especially pagodas that are more than 100 years old, will be slightly angled. It tilts to the southeast, so I built this tower and tilted it a few inches to the northwest. After 100 years, the northwest wind in Bianjing City will straighten the tower, and this tower can stay in the world longer. As soon as Xiaopinggan answered, the craftsmen around him were all impressed. When you do built the tower, he even considered the climate and wind direction within 100 years. I admire it, I admire it. Amidst the admiration of the craftsmen around him, the world of the world bead in front of him suddenly shattered. The architect's summoning world bead, which had a very low fusion rate, was successfully fused by Xiaopinggan. The upper limit of divine power in the secret mandala has been increased by 27 points, from 8642 points to 8669 points, and there is also an iron relief of Yu Hao building the tower. The lifelike Yu Hao on this relief is the summoning position of the architect. After the fusion was completed, Xiaopinggan also opened his eyes. The distance to 8820 points is only 151 points short of the upper limit of divine power. 5 or 6 more boundary beads should be enough. Xiaopinggan let out a long breath. It had not been 2 minutes since Xiaopinggan had integrated the previous boundary bead that Shikuang had studied. That boundary bead had added 10 points of divine power to Xiaopinggan. Now, the 7 Yang realm was even closer. At this time, Xiaopinggan still has 20 or 30 fused world beads in his hand, as well as a lot of banknotes. He only needs to take out these world beads and banknotes to exchange for a few world beads that he has not fused to reach the 7 Suns realm. Not difficult at all. The key is, where can I find someone to exchange the world beads? Xiaopinggan thought for a while, then looked at the time on his watch and found that it was already late at night. Li Yunzhou and the others should know how to change to boundary beads in the capital area. Thinking of this, Xiaopinggan smiled slightly and entered the spirit world directly, preparing to ask Li Yunzhou or Fang Lingshan about the situation. Xiaopinggan was underground, but when he crossed the golden arch in the spiritual world temple, outside the arch was a barren hill. The hills were surrounded by mist, and there were charred and petrified stones everywhere on the hill. Big trees, it looks like there was a terrible fire here. The fire turned this hilly area into what it is now without any grass. This is Xiaopinggan's first time entering the spiritual world in the capital area of Dian Kingdom. Xiaopinggan wanted to find the spiritual bodies of Li Yunzhou and the others. When he looked up, he saw stars flashing in the sky. They were the spiritual bodies of people who had fallen asleep. The number and density of summoners in the capital area of Dian Kingdom may be one of the areas with the highest number of summoners on the earth. Among the stars in the sky, many of them are colored. Xiaopinggan saw it at a glance in the past. I saw hundreds of twinkling stars in the sky. In addition to the star spirits of these summoners, the star spirits of ordinary people are even more dense, almost like the Milky Way hanging in the sky. Large groups of star spirits gather together. Those star spirits, the distance between the bodies is very close. Needless to say, the dense concentration of these ordinary people's star spirits naturally means that the population density in the Bay Area, the capital of the Great Yan Kingdom, is also very terrifying. The country of Dian is vast and sparsely populated, so a large number of people are gathered in several large urban areas. The capital Bay Area is the most densely populated area. Just scan those ordinary stars at will. I go. Xiaopinggan was startled by the streaks of black energy entangled in the ordinary stars in the sky. Why are there so many nightmare insects in this metropolitan area? Looking up, there were almost 1,000 nightmare insects in the sky above the spiritual world in the capital area. In other places, there are only 3 to 5, 7, or 8 such things at most, but in the spiritual world around the capital of the Great Yan Kingdom, it is as if the nightmare insects have a nest here. Don't tell me, there really is a nest of nightmare insects. Xiaopinggan's eyes scanned the sky, and sure enough, he saw a huge honeycomb-shaped object floating in the sky. The honeycomb-shaped object was about several thousand meters in size. It was filled with black air, like an evil spirit floating in the sky. In the fortress in the sky, from time to time, nightmare insects fly in and out of the huge hive like bats flying out of the cave to look for food at night. Seeing so many nightmare insects in the sky here, Xuanhuan was first surprised, and then overjoyed. He was worried that he couldn't find the nightmare insects, but he didn't expect that the nightmare insects actually had a nest here, and they were completely delivered to his door. At this time, there is no need to rush to find Li Yunzhou and the others. It is only proper to eat the feast of these nightmare insects in front of you first. He, God is really helping me. Xuanhuan licked his lips and patted the silver necklace on his chest. There was just a flash of light. In the next second, Xuanhuan merged with the huge metal body of the Flame King like a hill. Transformed into a Flame King Kong, appeared on this hill, scanning the cute prey in the sky with indifferent and violent eyes. A nightmare insect discovered the Flame King Kong that suddenly appeared on the hills on the ground, and became slightly commotion. The next second, the Flame King Kong stepped on the ground, and a hill instantly flattened. Under the Flame King Kong's big foot, a mysterious rune with a diameter of several hundred meters and flashing flames lit up. The rune radiated light. In a flash, like a wave, it extended out from the ground. In just a blink of an eye, in a few seconds, it encompassed the entire capital area and the Bay Area. Countless flame runes appeared on the ground and enveloped the sky. A huge barrier is formed from the sky to the ground. Within this barrier, the nightmare insects in the sky and the things on the ground can never escape unless they can crush the Flame King Kong. Closing complete. The Flame King's eyes suddenly turned blood red, and his whole body was filled with flames. His huge body suddenly rose into the sky and rushed towards the nest of the nightmare insects in the sky. The nightmare insects in the sky were suddenly alarmed. To these nightmare insects, the Flame King Kong is like a natural enemy with bloodline suppression. As soon as the nightmare insects felt the terrifying aura of the Flame King Kong, they were frightened and fled in all directions. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 573. The huge nightmare insect nest floating in the sky quickly enlarged in front of Xuanhuan, who transformed into the Flame King. The nightmare insects in the nest also seemed to sense a huge crisis. Many nightmare insects were emerging from the huge nest and wanted to run away. How could Xuanhuan let those nightmare insects run away? The Flame King remained silent, but his whole body suddenly burned with blazing flames. Like a bolide, he quickly approached the nightmare insect nest. Boom! Amid the loud noise that shook the ground today, the Flame King Kong was like a bullet that suddenly hit the nest of the nightmare insect. Just this time, no less than 100 nightmare insects in the insect nest were turned into ashes. They were crushed by the impact force brought by the terrifying body of the Flame King. The nightmare insects instantly turned into flesh, and the body of the Flame King rose up. Flames can burn everything. Everything in the insect nest, as long as it is touched by the flames, will be reduced to nothingness. Just for a moment, countless golden light of soul power gathered towards the body of Flame King Kong. The insect nest was full of panicked nightmare insects. It is estimated that the nightmare insects had never thought that one day, a metal giant covered in terrifying flames would rush into their nest. In the insect nest, Xuanhuan also saw a high altar. Around the altar were several nightmare insect monsters that had turned into human forms but were still dragging their tails. Some of the nightmare insect monsters were black. It was similar to the nightmare insect monster Xuanhuan had seen before, but there was another nightmare insect monster whose body was dark red, which was obviously different from other nightmare insect monsters. The nightmare insect monsters were also frightened by the Flame King Kong that suddenly rushed into the lair. In great fear, they wanted to run away in an instant. How could Xiaoping'an let those nightmare insect monsters run away from under his nose? Those nightmare insect monsters were a great tonic to the shepherds. The huge palm of the Flame King fiercely grabbed at those nightmare insect monsters, just like catching insects, and caught 3 nightmare insect monsters in one hand. With a slight exertion on his hand, the 3 nightmare insect monsters like pigeon eggs, they were turned into powder under the giant palm of the Flame King Kong. 2 nightmare insect monsters ran away. A black nightmare insect monster rose into the sky and wanted to fly away, while the dark red nightmare insect monster retreated sharply and entered the lair passage behind it. The nightmare insect monster that soared into the sky did not run far. Xiaoping'an waved out his other hand. The nightmare insect monster was in the air like a fly hitting a fly swatter, and was instantly hit by the Flame King's blow. A big hand was beaten into a pulp, and was instantly reduced to ashes by the flames on the hand. And the dark red nightmare insect monster that wanted to escape from the lair passage did not run very far. The Flame King punched out. The terrifying fist was devastating and penetrated directly through the entire passage. The high-temperature flames on the fist turned into a line. The fire dragon was fiercely injected into the passages of the entire nest. The raging fire dragon was so violent that it continuously surged through the passages of the insect nest like a river, burning everything. The dark red nightmare insect monster was still running wildly in the passage, and the flames came like a flood. It could only let out an unwilling scream, and was reduced to ashes in the flames. The passage of the huge insect nest was filled with flames. In the eyes of the Flame King, the originally dark passages inside the insect nest suddenly appeared with countless dense fiery red lines like spider webs. Among those lines, there were all insect nest passages. The flames are raging inside, because the passages of the insect nest are all connected, so the flames injected into it fill all the passages inside the insect nest in a very short period of time, and there are also flames that are broken by the Flame King Kong. There was constant spewing out of the cracks in the cave. The insect nest suddenly lit up, and countless nightmare insects in the passage of the insect nest were instantly reduced to ashes. The next second, a flaming sword appeared in the other hand of the Flaming King Kong. The flaming sword swung and extended a distance of 1,000 meters. With just one slash, the flaming sword's light came from the insect nest. The top is drawn all the way to the bottom. Under the flaming sword, everything returns to nothingness. Boom! There was another earth-shaking loud noise. Less than 10 seconds after Xiaoping'an's incarnation of the Flame King broke into the insect nest, the huge insect nest floating in the sky, amidst the turbulent firelight shining on the sky, suddenly fell into pieces and turned into countless fragments, carrying the corpses of countless nightmare insects, which were still burning or turning into ashes, exploded and fell in the air, scattering on the land of the spiritual world. In the sky, only the body of the Flame King Kong holding the flame sword is still burning. Balls of flames, like blooming flowers, emerge from the body of the Flame King in circles, like a blaze in the darkness. The scorching sun shines on the sky of the spiritual world. The soul power in the bodies of the killed nightmare insects and nightmare insect monsters turned into countless light points, like a golden galaxy, converging on the Flame King's body from all directions. At this time, the flaming sword turned into a flaming whip. The length of the whip became several thousand meters, like a flaming dragon dancing in the sky. The Flaming King waved his hand again, and the flaming whip instantly violently, it swept across the sky. It was like a series of thunders exploding in the sky. Within thousands of meters in the sky, the agile and domineering flame whip swept like a wild dragon. Dozens of nightmare insects running in terror were swept by the whip. Suddenly it turned into ashes and scattered from the sky. The long whip rolled up again, a series of explosions resounded through the sky, and dozens more nightmare insects turned into ashes in the air and scattered on the ground. The nightmare insects fled in panic, but they soon discovered that the entire sky and ground had been enveloped by a huge energy barrier, making it impossible to escape. The nightmare insects were like turtles in a urn, and could only stay in that limited area. Dodge everywhere in the space. At this time, the Flame King rushed over, curling up the flame whip in his hand and spitting out. With a whip, within thousands of meters, the violent fire dragon swept the sky amidst the roar of thunder, and the nightmare insects were in the flames one after another. In the Vajra's flame whip, it was reduced to ashes. Unknowingly, black snowflakes began to fall in the sky around the spiritual world around the capital of the Great Yan Kingdom. Those snowflakes were the ashes of the corpses of the nightmare insects. In less than 5 minutes, as the long whip in the hand of the Flame King was drawn out for the last time, the last 2 nightmare insects still scurrying in the sky were completely turned to ashes. The Flame King fell from the sky and stepped on a mountain peak on the ground. The mountain peak shattered, and the few nightmare insects that had just been hiding in the cave under the mountain peak were trampled into bloody mud by the Flame King's kick in the shattered mountain peak. The spiritual world is finally peaceful. And the soul power of Xiaoping's spiritual body, the golden ball on his chest, has expanded more than 10 times at this moment, like a sun condensed by soul power, emitting the light of soul power on Xiaoping's chest. Xiaoping's spirit body is in a comfortable and powerful state all the time, and the soul power in the spirit body seems to be endless. Not only that, as the soul power in the body increased, something seemed to be condensed in the soul power sun, like an egg. The soul power sun seemed to be just enough to hatch the egg. In the blink of an eye, the egg in the soul power sun shattered, and a divine bird with a golden head and colorful crests emerged from it, spreading its gorgeous wings. No, not wings, but the 6 huge wings were bathed in the soul light in the soul power sun, and they were full of energy. The eyes of the divine bird had the aura of a king looking down on everything in the sky. High-level pastor. I finally advanced to the advanced pastoral level. Xiaoping'an was a little excited. He didn't expect that this rare opportunity would allow him to destroy a nightmare insect's nest and complete this important advancement when he came to the capital area of the Great Yan Kingdom. But in addition to being excited, Xiaoping'an was also surprised. He had heard Mr. Mu say before that once a shepherd advanced to a high-level shepherd, a high-level shepherd would be born from the sun of soul power condensed by the high-level shepherd. The innate spiritual creature of the first-level shepherd. The innate natal spiritual beings born by high-level pastors vary from person to person. They have infinite mysteries and can bring many benefits to high-level pastors. Xiaoping'an felt the divine bird with 6 wings that was born from the soul yang in the chest of his spiritual body. He was stunned for a moment. He didn't know why his innate spiritual creature was such an unamiable monster. Bird. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 574. The Flame King's light and shadow flashed and disappeared. Xiaoping'an's figure appeared on the ground, and the Flame King Kong turned into a necklace around his neck again. After the battle just now, on the ground in the spirit world of the capital circle, if you look closely, you can see those nightmare insects transformed everywhere. 4 black ashes. The sky suddenly became cleaner, and the star spirits were even more brilliant. They were not affected by the battle just now, and they didn't know what happened. It was just that many people in the capital area quietly got rid of their nightmares, and they were destined to have a sweet sleep tonight. What is the use of this shepherd's innate natal spiritual object? Xiaoping'an touched his chest, and for the time being he did not find out what benefits the born natal spiritual object could bring to him, but thinking that he had already, Xiaoping'an became excited again after advancing to a high-level pastoralist. This meant that if he returned to the pastoral fortress this time, he would be able to learn the unique skills of a high-level pastoralist. Within the pastoralist's power system, after advancing to a high-level pastoralist, there will be a huge improvement and qualitative change in ability. Xiaoping'an has been waiting for this day for a long time. Suppressing some excitement, Xiaoping'an looked up again and looked at the bright and clean starry sky with a smile on his face. Maybe, this is the meaning of the existence of the shepherd, the unknown guardian in the dark night, the soul, the shepherd of the body. Among the stars in the sky, Xiaoping'an easily found Xianing's spirit body, and Xianing had fallen asleep. Xiaoping'an thought for a while, but still did not enter Xianing's dream to disturb her. For Xiaoping'an, as long as he could confirm that his sister was living well in the capital area, it was enough. He had too much contact with Xianing. On the contrary, it was not good for Xianing. Let's see if there are any other acquaintances. Xiaoping'an used the spirit-seeking technique to search, and soon found Li Yunzhou. Looking at the direction of Li Yunzhou's star spirit body, Li Yunzhou is not in the capital area, but more like at sea, but there is no problem in communicating in dreams. Soon, Xiaoping'an used the dream entrustment technique to enter Li Yunzhou's dream. In the dreamland, Li Yunzhou was killing everyone. Several demon rats and a group of zombies broke into the girls' high school, putting the school into crisis. At the critical moment, Li Yunzhou fell from the sky, just like Superman, and killed the demon rats and zombies in 3 strokes. Became the savior of the women's high school, and then, a group of women, efficient and beautiful teachers, and beautiful students all gathered around. Li Yunzhou was immersed in a sea of happiness. Wow, you are so awesome. We admire you so much. Please come to us and be the principal. A beautiful teacher held Li Yunzhui's hand with tears in her eyes and said, "The safety of our teachers and students in our school is left to you, teacher. As long as you come to our school, you can do whatever you want." Several beautiful female students in sailor uniforms hugged Li Yunzhou's thighs, already looking pitiful. He knelt down in front of Li Yunzhou, exposing his snow-white thighs. "We are so scared, teacher, please be sure to live in our dormitory, so that those bad guys and invading creatures will not come." A group of girls outside were shouting. "Don't worry, I won't abandon you," Li Yunzhou said righteously in his dream. Then, he saw all the beautiful students and teachers around him disappear, and everything in the women's high school disappeared. Xiaoping'an, wearing a golden mask, appeared in front of him again. Xiaoping'an also looked at the sky Li Yunzhou speechlessly. The energy response of the spirit body in this guy's dream just now was very high, which meant that this dream was really a beautiful dream for this guy Li Yunzhou. Not only was it a beautiful dream, but it was also a dream that had always been in his heart. The thing he longed for had a strong resonance with his soul and emotions. It turned out that the most secret desire in this guy's heart was to become the principal of a women's college. "Ah, who are you?" Li Yunzhou, who was immersed in a dream, didn't fully react for a while and looked around. "Where are those female teachers and female students? I'm going to save them." Xiaoping'an pointed at Li Yunzhou, and a basin of cold water was poured on Li Yunzhou's head. Li Yunzhou, who was still in the dream, suddenly awakened and finally realized that he saw Xiaoping'an in the dream again. "Ah, where have you been?" Li Yunzhou asked directly, "Are you still in Paris?" "I have arrived in Dian Kingdom, just in the capital area. By the way, let me ask you something." "What's the matter?" Li Yunzhou looked at Xiaoping'an and looked at the misty dreams around him. Every time Xiaoping'an appeared in his dreams, he would be greatly shocked. "I have some unused world beads on my hands. Do you know where I can get some rare world beads in the capital area? You can exchange them with the world beads I have, or you can buy them with money. In the capital area there are a lot of summoners, everyone should have this need. Do you want to exchange and buy world beads?" "Certainly. There is a Ping'an villa in the capital circle. It is on the Goddess Island in the capital circle. If you ask around, you will know that Ping'an villa in the capital circle is one of the largest strongholds of the Facebook club in the Great Yan Kingdom. You know the Facebook club, that is in the Global Summoner Club. You can exchange and purchase some rare world beads at the Facebook club in the metropolitan area." Facebook club? Xiaoping'an suddenly remembered that when he was in Yizhou province, Yan Duo took him to the Facebook club in Yizhou. "I know the Facebook club, they seem to only accept members," Xiaoping'an said. I'm at sea right now, so it's not convenient for me to come over. I'll contact the Facebook club and make a recommendation for you. You can just go to the Facebook club to become a member. By the way, it's your first time to go, so you can't go directly to the Goddess Island. The island will not accept summoners who arrive unexpectedly. The Facebook club has a window and office in the Sage building next to the National Library in the metropolitan area. It provides services to summoners 24 hours a day. You should go to the Sage building first. Indicate your identity, and after you join the club, they will arrange transportation to take you to Goddess Island. Li Yunzhou told Xiaopingan in detail. It's not convenient for me to expose my current identity casually, so that's okay. Of course ordinary people can't, but you don't have to look at who I am. The summoner of our order committee introduces members to join the Facebook club. You can join with a hidden identity. It doesn't matter even if you wear a mask. I will call them, I promise. You can just go to the Sage building tomorrow morning. Li Yunzhou patted his chest and said with a proud look on his face. Why is it tomorrow morning? Can't I go tonight? Okay, then tonight, I will call them after I get up. Li Yunzhou spread his hands and said. Okay, thanks. Xiaopingan was ready to exit Li Yunzhou's dream. Hey, can I ask you something? Li Yunzhou quickly stopped Xiaopingan. After I finish calling them, I have to go to sleep. I have been looking forward to that dream for a long time. Can you send me to the dreamland just now? Li Yunzhou said wretchedly. Xiaopingan looked at him speechlessly. When leaving Li Yunzhou's dreamland, Xiaopingan waved his hand, and Li Yunzhou was sent directly out of the dreamland and woke up. Li Yunzhou woke up in a separate cabin of a warship. A few days after returning from Paris, he received a new mission. However, compared with the mission in Paris, the new mission was much less dangerous. It was just a bit boring. He has to stay on this cruiser of the Great Yan Kingdom for a full 2 months. As the summoner accompanying the ship, he will deal with some incidents that may occur on the ship that only the summoner can deal with. During the mission, he had no communication control and could still use the ship's phone to communicate with the outside world. Li Yunzhou made a call directly using the video encrypted phone in his cabin. After completing the identification, Li Yunzhou talked about the serious matter to the people over there. Yes, I introduced a person to join the Facebook club. Well, that person is a supplier of the order committee. His identity is confidential and he is also a summoner. The fee for joining will be deducted directly from my card. In the underground safe house, Xiaopingan also opened his eyes and retreated from the spirit world. The next second, he walked out of the safe house, his whole body flashed, and he left here using the earth escape technique. Just 10 minutes later, Xiaopingan stood at the door of the Sage building. Golden Summoner. Author, Zy Hu. Chapter 575. Goddess Island is Angel Island. Xiaopingan was riding a helicopter on the roof of the Sage building, looking down at the island on the sea in the Bay Area of the capital circle under the night sky, and this sentence suddenly flashed in his mind. The procedures for joining the Facebook club went smoothly, and even the membership fee was paid by Li Yunzhou. Therefore, when he learned that Xiaopingan wanted to exchange boundary beads at the Facebook club worked at the window of the Sage building. After leaving, arrange for Xiaopingan to go to Goddess Island. It is said that arriving early is worse than arriving wisely, because just tonight, there will be a gathering of summoners from the capital area of the Great Yan Kingdom on the Goddess Island. At this gathering, many summoners will bring their own world beads. Exchange or sell. Angel Island is the name left on another Earth by the island on the sea. In another period of history that Xiaopingan knew, the so-called Angel Island was not angelic at all. This island was stained with the blood and tears of Chinese immigrants. Back then, those Chinese who wanted to immigrate to this continent by boat came to the first stop to this continent was this island. This island became a huge prison and concentration camp, and the Chinese were isolated and imprisoned on this island. And now, in this world, this Angel Island has become the Goddess Island, and the Goddess Island has become the activity center of the Facebook Club in the Bay Area of the capital of Dian. The Facebook Club has built a safe villa on the island, where they welcome people from all directions. Summoner. Sitting on the helicopter, you can see a large number of luxury yachts parked in the pier and port area east of Goddess Island. The luxury yachts parked here are as ordinary as bicycles parked in a shopping mall. The summoner's wealth is clearly revealed here. For a senior summoner, the so-called helicopters and yachts are only worth the price of a world bead. They can be bought at any time as long as they are needed. There is a villa on the island with a white exterior wall hidden among palm trees. The lights in the villa are not dazzling in the wild, but they are bright enough. Sitting in the helicopter, you can also see many people wearing black outside the villa. Security guards in suits were patrolling. Before Xiaopinggan's helicopter arrived, a helicopter had just stopped on the tarmac outside the villa. Two people wearing gorgeous summoner robes got off the helicopter and were taken to the villa. The helicopter then flew walk. A moment later, Xiaopinggan's helicopter also stopped on the nearby helipad. "Sir, Ping'an Villa has arrived." The helicopter pilot wearing noise-cancelling headphones turned to Xiaopinggan and said, "Okay, thanks. Glad to serve you." The helicopter's propeller quickly stopped. A man in a black suit came over and respectfully opened the helicopter door for Xiaopinggan. Xiaopinggan calmly walked out of the helicopter and was led directly towards the helicopter. Walk to Ping'an Villa. Xiaopinggan already knew the rules here very clearly before coming here. There are actually only two biggest rules in the Facebook Club. One is not to use force or magic in the Facebook Club, and the second is not to inquire about or leak the identities of other people in the club. Transaction details. A cocktail party was being held in the hall inside the villa and on a lawn outside the hall hung with snow-white gauze curtains. Well-dressed summoners and beauties in evening gowns were gathering in twos and threes to chat. Waiters carrying drinks were among them, there were people playing piano on the lawn, and several bonfires were lit. Music, wine, and bonfires made this island look particularly romantic. Interestingly, almost a quarter of the summoners who came here were still wearing various masks, but no one cared. Once here, Xiaopinggan can move freely. Xiaopinggan was not interested in chatting or anything. He walked straight through the reception area in front and came to a hall behind the villa. Here, it's another scene. The hall is like a high-end museum. Glass counters are placed here. Inside the counters, there are resin models of boundary beads. These boundary bead models are all boundary beads that the Facebook Club can sell. The label under the world bead model has the number and price of the world bead. The price ranges from tens of millions to hundreds of millions. There are many summoners around here. Everyone is here to comment on the world bead. If anyone likes it, if you have a certain world pearl, you can contact the Facebook Club and complete the transaction alone in the trading room. The Facebook Club didn't dare to put dozens of boundary beads here at once. If any summoner had evil thoughts, it would be difficult to deal with. Therefore, placing the boundary bead model was an experience learned after the lessons of blood and tears. Of course, to the summoner, the boundary bead model just looks like a boundary bead. You can tell whether it is real or fake at a glance. It is impossible for someone to use a model to confuse the real one. Xiaopinggan's eyes swept over the display cabinets here. He was originally full of enthusiasm, but after looking at the counters, he couldn't help but feel disappointed. There were more than 50 kinds of world beads in the counters here, all of which he had already fused. None of them are usable. The world beads here, such as the foundation building world beads in groups of 3, the net world beads, the slave world beads, etc., may still be useful to ordinary summoners, but they are useless to him. Among the world beads, the most expensive one is a Kangja world bead, priced at 560 million yuan, which attracted a group of people to gather around the model of the world bead to discuss, but that world bead was useless to Xiaopingan. Xiaopingan passed through this hall and the cloister garden outside, and continued to walk inside. Inside, there was also a garden for the summoners who came here to exchange world beads and other resources. The garden has a gurgling stream, beautiful scenery, a bar, a cloister, and dark green lights dotted under the podocarpus trees in the garden. Summoners gathered all over the garden. As soon as Xiaopingan arrived here, he heard a voice, "I want to exchange this black box world bead for a world bead that summons an archer. Is this a request that is too much? Almost no one can fuse your black box world bead. It's really not easy to replace it with a world bead that summons archers. My black box world bead will almost never die if it fails to fuse. But it's useless if it can't be fused." Looking toward the sound, Xiaopingan saw two summoners talking next to the bar. When he turned his eyes, he saw that a summoner with a clown mask on his face had left, leaving only the next man stood there slightly disappointed, seemingly holding a world bead in his hand. Xiaopingan walked over directly. "Can I see your black box world bead?" The man glanced at Xiaopingan, and then showed the black box world bead in his hand to Xiaopingan. "Here, this is it." Xiaopingan looked at the black box boundary bead and found that the black box boundary bead was blood red. There were 4 small seal characters in the boundary bead. He done thorny tongue. Xiaopingan said in his heart, "No wonder this black box boundary bead is a black box boundary bead. No one can fuse, and who would have thought that a person's request before death would be so strange? Do you want to exchange this world bead for a world bead that summons an archer?" Xiaopingan asked. "Yes. It just so happens that I have a boundary bead that summons archers, and I can make an exchange with you," Xiaopingan said, and with a move of his hand, he took out a boundary bead that Yanyuji teaches King Chu archery. Seeing that Xiaopingan actually took out a boundary bead that could summon archers, the man was overjoyed, and a smile suddenly appeared on his face. "Okay." Both of them were afraid that the other would regret it, so the exchange went smoothly. Finally getting another world bead that he had never fused before, Xiaopingan breathed a long sigh of relief. This time, the girl's island was not in vain. "Let me ask, why do you want to exchange this black box world bead with me?" The man put away Xiaopingan's world bead and asked curiously. "I have no other hobbies, I just like to collect black box world beads." "Brother, he seems to be very rich. He can collect black box world beads. I admire him." "It's nothing. This is actually like venture capital. You think, if one day one of these black box world beads can be discovered by someone, and the magic it provides is unparalleled in the world, then wouldn't I? Big profit." Xiaopingan said. "Nonsense. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 576. The summoner who exchanged world beads with Xiaopingan left happily. Before leaving, he also left a phone number for Xiaopingan. Sure enough, he found a world bead that he had never fused here. Xiaopingan was shocked. The phone number left by that person made Xiaopingan's heart move even more. He thought of a way to quickly collect the world bead. Seeing that there were still many people gathered in the garden, everyone gathered in 2s and 3s to discuss various transactions, Xiaopingan took out a mobile phone from the space equipment and pretended to answer the call, but his voice suddenly stopped. It was so big that the whole garden could hear it clearly. "Hey, head of the family, yes, it's me. I'm attending the Facebook club party on Goddess Island." "What? Why does my family suddenly want to buy rare world beads? Don't we still have many world beads collected at home? My great-grandpa is out of quarantine. He feels that the variety of world beads collected by our family is not enough, so he plans to spend 1 billion euros to buy some more." Summoners' ears and eyes are always sensitive, especially the summoners in this garden. Everyone is not very far away. When Xiaopingan said the number 1 billion euros, almost all the summoners in the garden turned around. Looking towards him, many people's hearts moved. 1 billion euros is not a small amount. Everyone looked at Xiaopingan's face, but this face was a bit unfamiliar, but his tone was not small, and no one could guess Xiaopingan's origin. Xiaopingan was on the phone here, and someone was already quietly moving towards Xiaopingan. Okay, can I buy those I don't have at home and exchange them with my share of world beads? Well, the funds can be increased by 20%, and some rare ones can be increased by up to 40 to 50%. Let me handle the details. Okay, I understand, let me take a look. I just saw the world beads sold in the club here, they are very common, I have them in the Pearl Pavilion at home. When Xiaopingan hung up the phone, he turned around and found that many people had suddenly surrounded him. A middle-aged fat man with glasses and a black dress was holding a glass of wine and stepped forward with a smile. I just heard from my brother. I seem to want to buy rare world beads. My surname is Huang, and my name is Huangsheng. I don't know who this person is, how to call me Xiantai, it seems a bit unfamiliar. Haha, you're welcome. My surname is Qin. I come from China. I have been traveling around various countries. I have only arrived in the capital area of Dian Kingdom in the past few days. This is my first time here. Xiaopingan also said politely. I have a world bead here. Brother Qin, see if you need it, the fat man wearing glasses said and took out a world bead with a move of his hand. Xiaopingan smiled when he saw the boundary bead. There were 3 small seal characters Li Zingkun on the boundary bead. This boundary bead was the one used to summon the black dragon. He didn't expect to see another one here. Brother Huang, are you planning to sell or exchange this world pearl? Xiaopingan asked directly. Huang Sheng rolled his eyes. I plan to sell this world pearl for 5 million euros. When Xiaopingan bought this world bead, he only spent 4.8 million yuan from the Great Yan Kingdom, which was less than 1 million euros when converted into euros. Although the value of the world bead has doubled or tripled in the past 2 years, Huang Sheng asked for 5 million euros, which was definitely far beyond the value of this world pearl. 5 million euros is too expensive. I have this world pearl in my home collection. If you want to sell it, I want 4 million euros. Xiaopingan said directly with a smile. Huang Sheng laughed. Xiaopingan's offer of 4 million euros was much more than he expected. He originally only wanted 3 million euros, so as soon as Xiaopingan finished speaking, he immediately said, okay, deal. I don't know, brother Huang, how are you going to pay? Ha ha ha, of course I pay with one hand and deliver the goods with the other. I can transfer the money to brother Wang's account now, Xiaopingan said. A few days ago, he opened several anonymous accounts in several major global banks in Europe. Most of the money he got in Paris was deposited in the bank. As long as there is equipment, transfers are very convenient. In Facebook Club, such large value transactions seem to be very common. Huang Sheng just said to the waiter at the bar. Soon, the waiter brought a large value transfer device. After Xiaopingan took the device to complete the identity verification, within minutes, 4 million euros were transferred to Huang Sheng's account. Huang Sheng checked his account and found that the money had arrived. He immediately laughed and gave the Black Dragon summoning world bead to Xiaopingan again. Xiaopingan's collection of the Black Dragon's boundary beads was just a show of buying horse bones for 1,000 gold in front of everyone. Other summoners in the garden saw Huang Sheng selling his own world beads at a very high premium. As expected, Mr. Qin was very wealthy and paid on the spot. Those who wanted to sell or exchange world beads gathered around him. Everyone looked at Xiaopingan with eager eyes, and took out the boundary beads in their hands. Mr. Qin, please see if you need my world pearl. My world pearl only costs 6 million euros. Mr. Chin, my world bead is a rare black box world bead, and it only costs 10 million euros. Mr. Chin, I have a rare world bead here. My divine power world bead is also very rare, and the mortality rate of failed fusion is also low. I want to exchange this world bead for a magic world bead. In a few seconds, Xiaopingan was crowded with people, and the world beads were placed under Xiaopingan's eyes. Don't squeeze, everyone. We have plenty of time. You can come one by one. As long as it is a world bead that is not available in our family, I am willing to buy it. Xiaopingan has fused most of the boundary beads that everyone took out, but there are still a few boundary beads that Xiaopingan has not fused with. Xiaopingan was very straightforward with these unfused world beads. As long as the other party's asking price was not too outrageous, even if there was some premium, even if it was 30 to 40% more expensive, he would take it. Even the people outside knew about the goings on here. Many summoners who were originally outside came here and took out their own world beads, hoping to see if they could take advantage of the opportunity to make a fortune. 10 minutes later, Xiaopingan directly collected 7 rare world beads that he had not fused before. The total money spent was only 1 world bead plus more than 40 million euros, including the service fee paid to the Facebook club. This time, Qiyang realm is stable. After collecting enough world beads, he met some summoners from the capital area of Dian Kingdom. When the reception was almost over, Xiaopingan said goodbye and left the goddess island by helicopter. Returning to his underground shelter in the capital area again, Xiaopingan looked at the 7 world beads released in front of him and left. 7 Yang Realm, I'm here. Golden Summoner. Author, Zyu. Chapter 577. Father. Xiaopingan's first fused world pearl was the Hedun Thorn Tongue. As soon as Xiaopingan opened his eyes, he saw a man kneeling in front of him and wailing. This is a prison. Looking at himself again, with shackles on his hands and feet, Xiaopingan knows what is going on. Fusion of so many world beads, this is Xiaopingan's first time as a death row prisoner. The man kneeling in front of him was extremely heroic, it was Hiruabi, and his identity at the moment was Hiruabi's father, Hedun. Hedun's position during his lifetime was the governor of Jinzhou in the northern Zhou dynasty. It was Yu Wenhu who arrested Hedun and imprisoned him. After all, he was a minister of the northern Zhou dynasty, so the environment in the cell was not bad, not too messy. Hiruabi was kneeling in front of his father and crying sadly, because tomorrow was the day of his father's beheading. This was almost the last meeting between father and son. Hiruabi also cleared the relationship in the prison before he had to bring drinks and enter. In prison, he came to see his father for the last time. The matter has come to this, there is no use in grieving, don't cry, Xiaopingan said to Hiruabi calmly. Hearing what his father said, Hiruabi stopped crying, suppressed his sadness, wiped away his tears, took out the food and wine he brought from the food box, and laid them out for Xiaopingan. Father, these are all your favorite foods. Dishes, spirits. Death row prisoners must have a good meal before going on the road, and it was also by taking the opportunity to deliver the meal that Hiruabi could see his father again in prison. My lifelong ambition is to pacify Jiangnan and unify the country. This is the bounden duty of warriors like us. Unfortunately, I will never be able to fulfill this ambition in my life. If you want to inherit my ambition and contribute to the unification of the world in the future, then I'll die in peace, Xiaopingan said to Hiruabi. Father, my child must follow your teachings and contribute to the unification of the world in the future, Hiruabi said, holding back his sadness. I asked the prison guard to ask you to bring an all in. Did you bring it? Xiaopingan asked again. I have brought the all. Hiruabi opened the bottom of the food box. There was a sharp awl at the bottom of the food box. Hiruabi actually didn't know that his father asked him to bring one when he came to see him for the last time. What does the all mean? But he brought it anyway. Xiaoping'an picked up the all under the food box and looked at Hiruabi in front of him. A complex emotion surged in his heart. It is said that a son knows his son better than his father. He done watched Hiruabi grow up, how could he not know about his son? As for his temper, the reason why he done wanted Hiruabi to bring in an all during the last meeting with Hiruabi was because it was a father's last love and advice for his son. He done had already seen what his son would face in the future. He wanted to save the crisis, but although Hiruabi finally inherited he done's legacy, Hiruabi did not take the most important warning left to him by his father in the end, and was even killed by Emperor Sui Yang in the end. If Hiruabi could really understand his father's painstaking efforts before his death and be cautious in his words and deeds, I'm afraid he would not cause trouble again in the future. The only reason why I was sentenced to death this time is that I love to talk too much. Because of those words, I was jealous and hated by others and got into trouble. So today I asked you to bring the all in to tell you that after I leave in the future, you must be careful when you speak, especially warriors like us, don't talk nonsense, don't say strange things, we would rather keep silent all the time, than speak for the sake of quick pleasure. Xiaoping'an took the all and said to Hiruabi, put your tongue out. I will pierce your tongue with the all today. This is my last warning and warning to you. If you want to speak in the future, think about why I pierced your tongue with an all today. Hiruabi knelt on the ground, weeping, and stuck out his tongue. Xiaoping'an directly pierced Hiruabi's tongue with an awl, making Hiruabi's mouth full of blood. Then he took the awl back and said, do you remember? Kid, remember. Hiruabi nodded with tears. Those who fused this world bead were probably confused when they saw the awl brought by Hiruabi. Who would have thought that the last thing a death row prisoner wanted to do before dying was to pierce his son's tongue with an awl? Xiaoping'an was thinking about whether to use this awl to make a tattoo on Hiruabi's body, such as the word Jing or bear, so that Hiruabi could see it when he took off his clothes in the future, and maybe he would be more alert to him. I wonder if it can be considered a breakthrough fusion to gain 2 more points of divine power? With this thought in his mind, Xiaoping'an was about to ask Hiruabi to take off his clothes and ask the prison guard to bring in some ink. He would then give Hiruabi a tattoo. Jiju's world suddenly shattered. It took less than 3 minutes to fuse He Dun's thorny tongue. After a while, Xiaoping'an, who was sitting cross-legged in the safe house, opened his eyes. He Dun stabbed the world bead to increase his divine power by 20 points, and at the same time gave him a silence spell. The effect of the silence spell, that is, making people mute and unable to speak anymore. This silencing spell is permanent. After being hit by the silencing spell, if it is not lifted, you will have to be mute for the rest of your life. The upper limit of the secret mandala's divine power has also changed from the previous 8,669 points to 8,689 points, which is only 131 points away from the Seven Suns realm. In front of Xiaoping'an, there are still 6 boundary beads. Among the 6 boundary beads, 4 boundary beads are flashing with little bits of divine power. 100 Tails, Horse Leather Shroud and Xuanhuan Emperor Chongjian, especially the last world bead of Xuanhuan Emperor. The divine power stars inside are dotted, almost brilliant. There are 50 or 60 points, which is among the several divine power world beads. The most, which also means that if you can integrate this world bead well, you will get a lot of divine power. In addition, there are 2 other magic type boundary beads. One boundary bead is for summoning nomadic cavalry. There are 4 small seal characters in that boundary bead. Dongzhou kills the cow, and there is another boundary bead, which is also the black box boundary bead. I don't know what it summons. There are 4 small seal characters on the black box boundary bead, love the crane and lose the public. For others, it is extremely difficult to fuse the world beads, but for Xiaoping'an, his fusion of the world beads is like eating beans. In less than 20 minutes, the 3 world beads of Daowen sect, No silver 300 liang at this moment and horse leather shroud were smoothly fused by Xiaopingan. The horse leather shroud refers to the famous Eastern Han Dynasty General Fubo General Ma Yuan. The story of the other two world beads is also familiar. The divine power contributed by these three world beads is not much, the total is only 58 points. After fusing these three divine world beads, the divine power of Xiaopingan's secret mandala has reached 8,747 points, there are only 73 points away from the Seven Suns realm. The Seven Suns realm is already close at hand. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 578. Inside the imperial palace of the Han dynasty. Xiaopingan, who was already seriously ill, was lying on the bed and was already making arrangements for his funeral. The room was filled with ministers and concubines dressed in simple clothes. Emperor Wen of the Han dynasty was one of the emperors Xiaopingan respected the most among all the emperors of China. Therefore, when fusing this world pearl, Xiaopingan did it with a feeling of tribute and admiration. Over the decades, now it has reached the last moment of the integration of this world pearl, and Emperor Han Wen has made arrangements for his funeral. What Xiaopingan admired most about Emperor Wen of Han was that he lived an extremely simple life even though he was in the throne. Emperor Wen of Han, Lu Hong's simplicity, was not pretending or showing off, but real frugality. When Emperor Wen of the Han dynasty was still alive, in order not to increase the burden on the people, he was reluctant to build a terrace that cost more than 100 gold. In order to save money, he did not allow the concubines in the harem to wear long skirts that were too long and did not allow them to embroider curtains. They would wear straw sandals and patch their dragon robes when they were young. During his reign, the royal family did not build any palaces or gardens for 23 years, nor did they increase the expenditure on carriages and horses. They also required officials not to disturb the people in any form, and ordered that counties be prohibited from donating rare treasures. Exotic treasures were plundered from the people. During spring plowing, Emperor Wen of the Han dynasty would personally take his ministers to the fields to cultivate, and let the queen take the concubines to pick mulberry and raise silkworms. Emperor Wen of the Han dynasty lived an extremely simple life, but was extremely generous to the people. As soon as he ascended the throne, he ordered the state to support the elderly over 80 years old. The state should distribute rice, meat, and wine to the elderly over 80 years old every month. For the elderly over 20 years old, the state also provides them with linen, satin, and silk floss, and at the same time, they perform light corvées and light taxes to reduce the burden on the people. Compared with the emperors and rulers of later generations who lived extravagantly, built large-scale construction projects, and loved paying tribute with treasures, but they scraped the bones and flesh of the people and wanted to suck the marrow out of the elderly, Emperor Wen of the Han dynasty could be a role model among emperors for all generations. Without Emperor Wen of the Han dynasty, there would not have been the achievements of Emperor Wu of the Han dynasty. Emperor Wen of Han was so simple. He was the only emperor in history who did not even want to rob his tomb. Even tomb robbers respected him and knew that there was nothing valuable in his tomb. Extensive burial is a vulgar custom. I hate it the most. What's the point of burying gold and silver treasures and other worldly possessions with a dead person? Rather than burying these gold and silver treasures underground, it is better to leave them for the use of the country and the people. When I am alive, don't waste anything from the people, let alone waste it after death. Xiaopingan coughed as he spoke, and all the ministers and concubines in the room were crying. After my death, I will be buried in Bailing, there is no need to build a coffin for me by felling huge trees. You only need to chisel a stone coffin for me. All the utensils to be buried with me will be earthenware. No gold, silver, copper, tin, jewelry, etc. are allowed to be buried with me. The tombs of Bailing are not cared for, no large-scale construction is allowed to waste people and money, and the landscape of Bailing mountains and rivers is not changed for me, This is my legacy, you can write it down, no one can violate it, cough cough cough. Your Majesty's order, we will keep it in mind. Veteran Deng Tong said with tears in his eyes. After my death, the ladies in the palace and the maids below will be given gold and silver as gifts and sent home. They can freely remarry and find a good man, and no interference is allowed. The maid who rolled up the curtains in the room burst into tears when she heard this and sobbed silently. According to historical facts, after the deathbed edict of Emperor Wen of Han Dynasty Lu Heng was delivered, this world pearl was quietly shattered. An additional 66 points of divine power were added, and the upper limit of the secret mandala's divine power became 8,877 points. The critical point of the seven sun realm of 8,820 points was broken through. Quantitative changes once again brought about qualitative changes. The surging divine power resonated with the soul power in Xiaoping'an's body, cleansing the whole body and transforming it. Xiaoping'an's body. Emperor Wen of Han Dynasty's world pearl was the last one that Xiaoping'an fused. Before fusing this world pearl, Dong Zhou's two world pearls of killing Niu and I he lost public were already fused by Xiaoping'an. Dong Zhou did not leave a good name in history, but what many people don't know is that Dong Zhou was originally a child from a poor family. Why did he rise up in troubled times? Can he still gain the support of the Qiang people and dominate one side? There is actually only one reason, that is, Dong Zhou was also a loyal person when he was young, so someone was willing to help him. Before Dong Zhou became famous, his family was extremely poor. The most valuable thing in the family was an ox. When a group of his Qiang friends came to see him, Dong Zhou killed his own ox to entertain him without saying a word. His Qiang friends were very moved by this, and Dong Zhou also gained the support of the Qiang people, became famous in the countryside, and gradually became a powerful force in troubled times. By fusing this world bead, you can summon the light-armored rangers of the ethnic minorities. The story of Lost in Love with He tells the story of Duke Yugong of Wei. This story is similar to the story of Emperor Fei of the Song dynasty who was granted the title of Pig King. The only difference is that the Fei Emperor of the Song dynasty treated people like animals, while Duke Yugong of Wei but he treated cranes as human beings. Wei Yugong especially liked to raise cranes. He not only built a luxurious crane house in the palace and sent people to raise them carefully, but also treated cranes like people. He gave cranes various official positions and enjoyed them. He is treated like an official, so he wears an official hat, rides in an official car, and enjoys official salary, which is highly praised. Of course, if he continued playing like this, Wei Yugong also succeeded in playing himself to death. But this world bead also provides Xiaoping'an with a powerful technique, which can summon a huge crane as his mount. Compared with mounts such as 1,000-mile horses, this crane mount has 100 times the power and is faster. After fusing the two world beads, the upper limit of Xiaoping'an's secret mandala's divine power has reached 8,811 points. Xiaoping'an finally chose to use the world bead of Han when Emperor Lu Heng to break through the seven Yang realm for himself, which can be regarded as a commemorate. When Emperor Wen of the Han dynasty was in office, the country was exhausted from years of internal and external troubles and wars. What it needed most was to recuperate and recuperate. How to quickly rejuvenate a war-torn country and accumulate strength while surrounded by powerful enemies. At one point, Emperor Wen of Han dynasty had achieved the ultimate goal of an emperor. He almost never made any mistakes and did not create any opportunities for his opponents. The Xiongnu invaded 3 times, but they were defeated by Emperor Wen of Han dynasty. At the same time, Emperor Wen of Han dynasty also cleverly subdued them. He conquered South Vietnam and showed superb political skills and wisdom. Emperor Wen of Han's historical achievements, even if Xiaoping'an was in his position, would be difficult to achieve better than Emperor Wen of Han. Emperor Wen of Han was the true representative of a good fighter without illustrious achievements. Therefore, when Xiaoping'an fused this world bead, he carried out the fusion step by step with reverence and based on historical facts. The secret mandala is turned upside down, the sky is higher, the earth is thicker, the peaks and mountains on the earth are rising, the sound of the sea in the distance is rising, the waves are moving in the sky, the clouds are flying, everything is revived, Lingxiao city is expanding several times again, everything in the secret mandala is, in the midst of great changes, it is as if the kingdom of God is awakening. After an unknown amount of time, when the changes in the secret mandala and body had completely stopped, Xiaopingan finally opened his eyes. Xiaopingan's eyes flashed with light, and in the deepest part of his eyes was a bit of deep darkness. In the darkness, there was a faint shadow of the kingdom of God. The upper limit of divine power has finally reached the 7 Yang realm. Xiaopingan stood up and moved his body. The surging power and blood were like wild dragons undulating and roaring in his body's meridians. If nothing else, Xiaopingan felt that the combat power of his body at this moment seemed to have more than doubled compared to before. The divine power and soul power resonate together, and the body transformed by the initiation and marrow cleansing is indeed powerful. In terms of divine power, he has broken through the 7 Sun realm, but Xiaopingan knows that this is not the real 7 Sun realm yet. There are only 6 suns in his secret mandala, and this change is incomplete. The true 7 Sun realm requires bathing in the divine spring of the 7 Sun realm, and the changes in the body and secret mandala will be finally completed. Early the next morning, Xiaopingan went to Dian Bank in the capital area, opened a safe in the bank, and placed the Black Dragon World Pearl and the other 8 world beads in the safe. In the afternoon, he asked the God of Fortune boy to follow Xiaoning around for a day. After confirming that there was nothing to worry about around Xiaoning, in the evening, Xiaopingan returned to his underground safe house. That night, Tu Polu, Li Yunzhou, and Fang Lingshan were all dragged to the spirit world by Xiaopingan. Xiaopingan gave 3 initiations to each of them 3 times, and then told them his bank safe number and password. There were 3 people, each with 3 world beads. Xiaopingan left the world bead that could summon the black dragon to Tupolu because he felt that Tupolu's painting style was more reliable when he brought the black dragon with him. The black dragon's ability is a complete nemesis to the members of Devil's Eye. "You're leaving so soon," Tupolu looked stunned. "I thought you were going to meet Enqing, Lao Mo, and the others." "Time doesn't allow it this time. Let's wait until next time. I have to go back. We can see each other often in dreams in the future." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 579. The movement of his body slowly calmed down. Xiaopingan opened his eyes and let out a long breath. Here was a cave underground on a barren hill not far from the immortal sea. When Xiaopingan opened his eyes, all he saw was the surrounding rough rock walls and underground soil. When the clone received Emily's message that day, Xiaopingan flew near here and saw the desolation around him. He simply found a cave here and used the excavation technique to dig a deeper underground tunnel. Then he used the formation disc to protect the tunnel, placed his own body in the tunnel for seclusion, and set up a barrier. He then used his clone to return to the earth, and he has not returned until now. Hiding here, it is really difficult to find even gods. During this time, no accidents happened here. Calculating the time, almost more than a month has passed. This time he returned to earth and gained a lot before he knew it. His upper limit of divine power had reached the requirements of the 7 Suns realm. With the return of Xiaopingan's spirit body, Xiaopingan's body is also quickly adapting to the changes brought about by the spirit body. Because of the compatibility of the spirit body, this change is more fierce and direct than the incarnation. The primary issue now is to find the divine spring of the 7 Suns realm. Xiaopingan stood up and moved his hands and feet in the pit. As he moved, the muscles and bones of his body made crackling explosions. Xiang said, "You can't go back to the Immortal Sea. The Blood Demon sect focuses on the Immortal Sea and the 10,000 Gods section. If you go back, you will be throwing yourself into a trap. In addition to the 10,000 Gods sect, you must find a way to find the divine spring of the 7 Sun realm through other channels. Only then can we officially complete the advancement of the 7 Yang realm." From the 1 Sun realm to the 6 Yang realm, Xiaopingan had a smooth journey. Other summoners were worrying about the divine spring, but he had never worried about the divine spring. But now that he has reached the 7 Sun realm, he has to be like other summoners. "I'm going to worry about Xuanhuan. The higher the level of the divine spring, the more scarce and difficult it is to obtain. Not to mention the 7 Sun realm divine spring. At that time, in the entire Great Shang Kingdom, only the royal family of the Great Shang Kingdom controlled some of the rare springs in a certain void secret realm. The 7 Sun realm divine spring. If there is no divine spring, his realm can only stagnate here, which is only equivalent to half a step of the 7 Sun realm, but it is not the real 7 Yang realm. Even if there is a boundary pearl, it is useless and cannot continue to fuse. Because if you reach the realm and continue to fuse the realm beads without bathing in the divine spring, once the newly added divine power exceeds 210 points on the basis of 8,820 points and increases the divine power by 1 yuan, this is a taboo in practice, and the path of his summoner's practice will be broken. As he spoke, Xiaopingan's eyes suddenly became determined. No matter how difficult it is to obtain the divine spring of the 7 Yang realm, since others can do it, then so can I. The next second, Xiaopingan put away the tortoise shell and the 5 elements upside down bag was sword formation in the tunnel. In a flash, he flashed out of the underground tunnel and came to the cave outside. In the blink of an eye, he came out of the tunnel. He flew out of the cave and returned to the desolate hills outside. As soon as he came outside, Xiaopingan raised his head and was about to fly into the sky when he was surprised. The place where he is, within a radius of thousands of miles, is a patchwork of desolate hills with no vegetation. This hill is close to the Dead Sea. In the southeast of the Dead Sea, the hills are full of gray-brown rocks and nothing. Not a drop of water could be found, and the environment around the hill had not changed. What surprised Xiaopingan was that the sky above his head had actually changed. In the past, the sky in the god-killing insect realm was also blue and white with clouds, and the sun was shining brightly. It was not much different from the sky outside. But at this moment, as far as the eye can see, within thousands of miles, the entire sky has become dark, and the sky is filled with black air. A shocking dark red space crack, possibly millions of kilometers long, like a gaping monster's mouth, spanned the entire sky, splitting the sky above into two. Inside, dense lightning flashes shuttled through it, chewing something like sharp teeth, which made people feel chilling. And in the distance where the space crack extends, at the highest point and end of the distant sky, the outline of a huge round planet is looming, as if it is being swallowed up by this terrifying space crack and dragged into this world. Xiaopingan has seen a lot of big scenes. He had also seen the scene of the holy arrival on Earth, but the scene in front of him, which seemed to be the world of god-killing insects devouring a world and planet, was still too shocking. Leaving Xiaopingan standing in the sky, looking at the huge outline of the planet in the void at the end of the sky, dumbfounded, and did not react for a long time. During the more than a month he spent in seclusion, something extraordinary must have happened in the world of the god-killing insects. Xiaopingan suppressed his emotions, took a deep breath, looked around, and the next second, he used illusions to cover his whereabouts and flew quickly in one direction. Half a day later, over a mountain range more than 2,000 miles away from the desolate hill where Xiaopingan was hiding, a man and a woman, a pair of middle-aged summoners who looked like a couple, were flying in the sky. Suddenly, a figure flashed in the void 1,000 meters away, and Xiaopingan appeared in front of them. "Who is it?" The male summoner was very alert. When he saw someone suddenly appearing, he stopped immediately. The female summoner had already put one hand on the weapon on her waist. In a place like the god-killing insect world, no one knows who they will meet. Xiaopingyan flew directly towards them, but did not get too close. Instead, he stopped in the air within a safe distance of 100 meters away, and gave the two a summoner's greeting ceremony. "You two are invited." At this moment, Xiaopingyan's face is in his 30s. He is not very handsome, but his features are straight and bright. From the appearance, he does not look like a bad guy. In addition, he is parked at a safe distance, and he looks, it was more polite. The man and woman looked at each other and relaxed a little. "Ahem, why is this brother blocking my couple's way?" the man asked. "Don't get me wrong, I just went into seclusion some time ago. When I came out yesterday, I found that the world of god-killing insects has undergone great changes, which is very surprising." Xiaopingyan pointed to the huge space crack above his head and the outline of the planet in the distant sky. "I just happened to see you two flying over here, and I want to ask you two, what exactly happened in the god-killing insect world?" "I see." The man breathed a sigh of relief again. "This is space fusion. The god-killing insect realm has swallowed up the Pantheon star. The space connection between the Pantheon star and the god-slaying insect realm has been completely opened, so there is such a huge change." "What? Pantheon has been swallowed by the god-killing insect realm?" Xiaopingyan was shocked. Before he joined the Xuanhuan sect, he heard some news that the situation on the Xuanhuan star was getting more and more tense. The signs of spatial integration between the Xuanhuan star and the god-killing insect world were becoming more and more obvious, and the speed was accelerating. Unexpectedly, it was just more than one person. Months have passed, and the 10,000 god star has been devoured by the god-killing insect realm, and has undergone such a huge change. The huge outline of the planet on the horizon is the Pantheon star, the mother star of the Pantheon sect. "Ah, brother, please don't laugh. This is the first time I have seen this kind of thing. I would like to ask brother again, what will be the consequences of this 10,000 gods being swallowed by the god-killing insect realm? This god-killing insect tribulation is not can only people above the 6 yang realm enter? After this space is swallowed up, will all the ordinary people on the 10,000 god star die? This is space fusion and devouring. It is different from when we enter the world of god-killing insects. Ordinary people on the Pantheon will not die when space fusion and devouring occurs. But if those ordinary people want to survive in the world of god-killing insects in the future, I'm afraid it is also extremely difficult. Now all the insects and monsters in the god-killing insect world can now directly enter the Pantheon planet. Many people on the Pantheon planet will also be brought directly to us by the ubiquitous space turbulence. No matter how powerful Shenzong is, I'm afraid he can't save everyone." The man who spoke sighed and shook his head, with a look of regret on his face. "Yesterday I saw dozens of people being carried away by the turbulent flow of space. Ordinary people from Pantheon in the nearby mountainous area encountered a mantis insect, and all their bones were lost." Golden Summoner. Author, Zyu. Chapter 580. I didn't expect that such a big thing would happen in just a few days. "Thank you for telling me, brother," Xiaopingyan said with emotion and bowed his hands to the man again. "I wonder if there is any news from Xuanhuan sect. Is there any news? What contingency plan is there? I don't know about this. I just heard that there was a conflict between the Xuanhuan sect and the people of the Blood Demon sect in the Sea of Immortality some time ago. There was a big commotion, and the core of the leaders of the Xuanhuan sect are just the Skywalkers of the Xuanhuan star. These Skywalkers do not have absolute power on the Pantheon. A few days ago, I heard that the Pantheon sect was recruiting experts. I don't know how exactly. Anyway, the world of god-killing insects has become increasingly chaotic and dangerous recently. With the 10,000 god star was swallowed up by the god-killing insect realm. The Zerg in the god-killing insect realm were restless. The demon gates were opened everywhere, and everything came out. Okay, thank you for letting us know, brother. I wonder if this brother is also leaving the world of God-killing insects. To be honest, my husband and I are about to leave the world of God-killing insects and go outside to avoid the limelight. We made an appointment with a few friends to meet at the mountain peak in front of us. If this brother wants to leave, we can go together. We have more strength and we can take care of each other. The man was quite enthusiastic. Seeing Xiaopingan alone, he invited Xiaopingan to accompany him. In the world of God-killing insects, it is very common for summoners to form teams together. The more people there are, the greater the ability to deal with crises. Thank you for your kindness, brother. I just came to the God-killing insect realm not long ago, and I want to find some opportunities. I don't want to leave for the time being. Oh, if you are looking for an opportunity, why not go to Hoki Mountain? I heard that Hoki Mountain has been very lively recently. Many powerful sects have gathered in Hoki Mountain. The two exchanged a few words, and then the couple flew away. Xiaopingan stopped in the sky, looking at the huge outline of the planet in the distance, feeling a little heavy. The sight of the Pantheon being swallowed greatly shocked Xiaopingan's heart. Xiaopingan couldn't imagine what it would be like if what will happen if the Earth is swallowed up by space one day. Hoki Mountain, Xiaopingan murmured to himself and looked eastward. In his mind, a topographic map of the explored area of the God-killing insect realm appeared. Hoki Mountain is located to the east of the Immortal Sea, about 100,000 kilometers away from here. Compared with the Immortal Sea, Hoki Mountain is a traditional and important central area of the God-killing insect realm. The human race has been operating in Hoki Mountain for countless thousands of years. It is extremely prosperous there. There are many powerful people in Hoki Mountain and the cultivation resources are also extremely rich. Xiaopingan's heart moved. He was now looking for the divine spring of the Seven Sun realm. Instead of rushing around in this wilderness, he might as well go to Hoki Mountain to try his luck. Only in crowded places would he have a chance. After making a decision in his mind, Xiaopingan determined the direction and waved his hand. He only heard a crisp sound of cranes. The light and shadow flashed around Xiaopingan. A huge crane with wings spread out and more than 6 meters long had been summoned by Xiaopingan. Coming out, the crane stands in the sky, flapping its wings. Its feathers are simple and pure, its body is elegant, and it is full of style. This is the He Ching that can be summoned from the world bead that Xiaopingan fused before. It's really beautiful. As soon as the crane was summoned, Xiaopingan sat directly on the crane's back. The summoned crane spread its wings and flew towards the east. Xiaopingan's robe on the crane was flowing and elegant, like an immortal. When traveling long distances, summoning a mount such as a crane saves energy and is more comfortable than flying by yourself. Flying in the air, Xiaopingan waved his hand and directly used illusions to disguise himself and the crane into a faint cloud, without attracting any attention. The normal flying speed of this summoned crane in the sky is about 600 kilometers per hour. In critical moments, it can fly even faster, and there is no need to eat. The plane summoned by a crane takes a full month to arrive. The crane's body is covered with a layer of soft feathers, just like a thick down cushion. Xiaopingan sits on the crane, protected by a thin layer of water film. No matter how fast the crane flies, he is in the air. There is also a gentle breeze blowing on my face, so I can sit, lie down and sleep, which is so relaxing. Riding on the back of a crane, you can fly 6,000 to 7,000 kilometers in a day. The crane is still flying even when you are sleeping or closing your eyes. It is really a good companion for long journeys. Riding on a crane is indeed comfortable. Xiaopingan finally understood why among the Chinese myths, there are many legends about immortals flying on cranes. This style is indeed enough. In order to better match the painting style of this crane, Xiaopingan changed his face again, making himself look like a summoner in his 50s or 60s with fairy wind, crane hair, and childlike face. He wore a black robe and carried a sling on his back. He was holding a long sword and looked very majestic. The changes in the world of god-killing insects are really great. The entire sky in the world of god-killing insects is shrouded in a layer of black air. During the day, almost no light can be seen. At night, the sky becomes completely dark and extremely depressing. The crack was a bright dark red, like a huge bleeding wound. The entire world of god-killing insects is like the world before its destruction, which is extremely depressing. The Zerg were restless. Xiaopinghan flew all the way and found that the various Zerg he saw along the way were obviously much more than he had come before. There were also some bugs and alien beasts that had the ability to fly. The crane's eyesight was very good, and he found that the dangers were avoided in advance, and Xiaopinghan used illusion magic to become invisible. He didn't get too close to any insects or beasts along the way, and he didn't get into any trouble. If Xiaopinghan had seen those bugs before he advanced to the Seven Yang realm, he might not be able to help but kill them to find a few usable boundary beads, but at this time, he was not in the mood at all. There is no use for the boundary pearl. Instead of causing trouble on this road, it is better to rush to Hoki Mountain as soon as possible to look for opportunities. Along the way, Xiaopinghan also met many summoners. Everyone was wary of each other and went their separate ways without getting too close. Xiaopinghan originally thought that he could fly all the way to Hoki Mountain, but after he flew in the sky for 12 days and flew nearly 70,000 to 80,000 kilometers, on this day, he flew over a green field in the sky. On the hill, I had to stop. Looking down from the sky, in the middle of the green hills, there is a clear river flowing in the mountains. The water of the river is somewhat turbulent, and there are clusters of snow-white water splashes flowing out, like jade ribbons in the green, which is particularly pleasing to the eye. But just as Xiaopinghan flew by, he discovered that the river water was red. The thick smell of blood blew along the wind from the upper reaches of the river. With Xiaopinghan's many years of experience, he knew with just one sniff that the bloody smell came from humans, not Zerg or other things. Grandma, who is doing this evil? Xiaopinghan cursed in his heart, put away the crane, and flew towards the source of the bloody smell in a flash.